Welcome, everyone. The topic of today's meeting is the foundations of learning English for work in the United States. I will discuss the key elements that activate efficient learning to improve your communication at work. Having these elements is a fast track to the next level of English proficiency. I will also talk about what doesn't work when it comes to improving your language skills. And before I dive into the main topic, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Anna Shapulina. I'm a coach specializing in learning for professional development. I've been working as an ESL teacher since 2016. I hold a certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages, accredited by the University of Cambridge. And I also completed my master's degree in English at Arizona State University. I recently launched this project focused on training adult students to learn English for building a career in the United States. I did this because I have observed many insufficient ways that immigrants use to improve their language skills. In social gatherings with my fellow immigrants, I meet people from various professions who find themselves stuck at the same level of English for many years. This impacts their job opportunities. While they have great technical skills, their soft skills need some improvement, which makes it difficult to progress in their careers. I wanted to provide an alternative path for these busy learners and help them boost their language skills through self-directed study. If you are here, you're probably one of these learners. And the goal of my project is to help you to become a highly demanded professional in the United States job market. I'd like to also share a little bit of my story and what motivated me to be here today. My journey with language learning began long before I decided to teach. In 2003, I studied literature at a university in Moscow, Russia, where my group specialized in English translation. I was fortunate enough to read Shakespeare in the original text. I thought my English was pretty good until I moved to the United States in 2006. That's when I realized I couldn't understand native speakers. It was a real struggle to hold a cohesive conversation. As it turned out, my knowledge of language structure and reading skills were solid, but my speaking and listening skills needed a lot of work. I recognize that many immigrants today are struggling with the same problem I faced when I first moved here. It's that basic human need to understand what others are saying and speak in a way that they can understand. And the lack of this makes us quite vulnerable, as it's tied to a deeper need for security in society. And that's why I decided that my first course in this project will be for helping students develop their fluency in the language skills. It will be an intensive course that I consider the first level for the students on their path to professional language proficiency. I wanted to create a course that would allow adult students to learn and implement new vocabulary in speaking with 100% success. I'm confident that the method in this course will exactly do that for you. It's not something that you'll find in a textbook. It's based on my knowledge and experience. And in this course, I will coach you how to direct your own vocabulary study. It's not a traditional language learning course. It's meant for self-learning. Self-learning may seem intimidating to some. They might think they lack discipline and need somebody else to do that for them. But learning is that one thing you cannot delegate or outsource. No one can do it for you, though you can get help organizing it. Imagine you are getting ready to sail across the ocean, and it's a tough journey, and you need a sturdy ship. Your learning is like that journey. I will help you to build that sturdy ship so that you can sail with confidence. The tools I provide in this course are clear and manageable for adults at any language proficiency level, even if you're a beginner. That was my introduction before we dive into the main topic. So, what are the foundations of learning English in the United States? In other words, what must you have to see visible results in learning the language as an immigrant? Let's take a step back and think about the kind of studying you did before immigrating. Besides public school lessons, you probably attended classes at a language center or took some online classes, or maybe you didn't. If you did, think back to that time and try to remember what made the most impact on your learning. One answer might be the language environment in your classroom. Those lessons were probably your primary opportunity to be surrounded by English. And once you walked out of that classroom, that experience ended. So what is the difference between you studying English there and here in the United States? And here you are permanently immersed in the English speaking environment. That environment was once constructed for you by a teacher in your native country, perhaps with pictures on the walls and a rule not to speak any other languages besides English. Although you can speak your native language at home, you no longer have to meet with a teacher or classmates to hear and practice the language. You have this opportunity to engage in English communication anytime you want. That's a big advantage, isn't it? That's why many immigrants think that once they start living in the United States, their language improvement will skyrocket. That they hope that within a year they will speak proficiently. However, soon they realize that living in the country, in the United States, does not automatically make them fluent. The point that I'm trying to make is that you need intentional study to make real progress. To compare it with food, you might live in a village with many gardens and domestic animals, but if you don't go and pick the fruit and milk the cows, you can benefit from them. You can walk around and say, oh, wow, that apple tree looks amazing. But if you don't take actions, you don't get the benefit. That's what happens in a native speaking environment when you don't actively learn. Some people start blaming their age, saying, I'm too old, I can't learn like kids do. And let me explain why kids are so successful at picking up a language. Children of school age and college students are exposed to language all day. Their days are filled with listening to teachers, reading, and processing information. Because their full-time job is being a learner, they're exposed to language pretty much all day. Another way to name this exposure is an input. So children receive a tremendous amount of language input every day. So failure to learn doesn't happen because of age. One of the reasons why it happens is because a learner doesn't have enough exposure to the language. That's why children learn the language so quickly. Not only they hear it all day, but the quality of language they hear is also diverse. And the subjects they study of various types of vocabulary and grammar. So that brings us to the first foundation of language learning in the United States: quality input. What does quality input mean for you as a worker in the United States? It means professional language for doing your job. Here, I want to distinguish between formal and informal language registers or styles, if you prefer that term. We use informal language with friends and peers. WhatsApp is informal. Formal language is what makes you sound professional. For example, instead of saying, we will talk about it later, to sound more professional, you would say, we will address this issue later. That's just one of the examples. So that's the quality input I'm talking about. And the emphasis here is on quality. And it's especially important if you don't have much time for studying. I imagine that most of you have full-time jobs and want to get the most benefit in the shortest period of time. Professional language is often what many full-time working immigrants are missing. And you probably hear little professional language in your work life, and that's normal. Maybe you do, but most of the times there's not that much. And what you hear is probably poor in vocabulary and may have oversimplified or even incorrect grammar. Since learners miss this foundation of quality input, they get stuck in developing their language skills for work. And in my intensive course, Fluent Vocabulary, I will share the criteria for selecting your vocabulary and demonstrate the method to learn it so that you can sound professional. And let me make a small diversion here and ask, how can I coach you if I'm not a native speaker of English myself? Some people are certain that they can only learn the language from a native speaker. Here I would ask you, are you looking for solutions that give you control of your learning or not? So that's the key question. And remember, you are already in a native speaking environment, and you're already surrounded by opportunities for language exposure and practice. And I'm here to offer solutions how to use that advantage. Let's talk more about the foundations of learning English for work. What tools do learners usually use? When people realize the necessity of improving their language skills, they look around and grab whatever is convenient, and that's phone applications for studying the languages, and it's just one of the options. And going through levels in these applications can create the illusion of progress. And what kind of progress is that? Is it progress that allows you to speak freely? Does finishing a level enable you to explain your viewpoint better to a colleague? The answer is no. It's progress in a game and not in real life. Another popular way to learn is by watching television or YouTube videos. It seems like it should provide a lot of listening practice. So it should improve your listening skills. But again, it's the same story. Watching television does not substitute for intentional learning because there is no interaction taking place. There is no interaction with you as a learner. It's one-sided communication since you only receive information and do not respond. Therefore, you're not mentally engaged in a way that would make you learn. It's like playing tennis with no racket or no opportunity to hit the ball. There is no reciprocation. You don't learn the language that way because passive reception of language doesn't activate your memory or cognitive skills enough for the learning process to begin. So it cannot be one of your main methods for learning. And this takes us to the second foundation of language learning, and this is meaningful interactions. And here, we're not talking about a random conversation or random interaction. We're talking about a conversation about subjects that matter to you. And that's what brings the most benefit for your learning. When you're emotionally invested in what you're talking about, your memory works best. You're more motivated to expand your vocabulary and keep the conversation going. And you can find many meaningful topics, meaningful for you within the realm of your job. This could include discussions about your workflow, potential improvements, teamwork, and so on. And all of this can lead to meaningful interactions. Of course, the topics will depend on the nature of your work. They will differ for a hairdresser compared to an IT specialist. And you need to be prepared for this two-sided communication. And how do you prepare? You plan your vocabulary wisely and learn it in a way that contributes to improving your speaking and listening skills. When you stumble over words trying to finish a sentence, it discourages a person you're talking to from having a full conversation with you. This kind of a broken conversation blocks you from having meaningful interactions. That's why in my intensive course, I focus on tools that target speaking and listening skills while learning vocabulary. With this approach, you will train your ear to hear the language clearly and create full sentences with proper pronunciation. It will shift your focus from picking up random words to thinking in English. And let me just say a few more words about the course. I'm planning it to be an intensive course with 3 sessions offering step-by-step instructions on how to select vocabulary, organize it, and memorize it in a way that can be used in your daily life at work. You will receive feedback from me on your assignments and have the opportunity to ask questions. And since this is going to be my first course in this project, the pricing will be very inexpensive. The starting price is $28, which is less than you would pay for one lesson with an ESL teacher. With this course, you're getting a method to learn vocabulary that will save you time and money while delivering the results you need. The method I'll share is worth much more, but you're lucky to be at the beginning of my project and hopefully in my first group. I must mention that the price will increase as the start date approaches. The expected date of this course will be announced soon. I'm thinking it will be mid-April. So if this is something that you need, I encourage you to register as soon as possible. And, I've also been asked, why isn't it free? Why is this first course not free? Well, the material in this course isn't something I discovered yesterday from reading a book. It's based on my expertise and creativity. And while it may sound controversial, pain is actually beneficial for you. Humans tend to like the idea of free, but think about it. When was the last time you learned something for free that transformed the way you think and the way you act? I personally can't think of a single instance. Everything that truly changed my life had a price tag. We value what we pay for, and to achieve results in learning, you need to value the tools you are given. Let's continue with our main topic. What else do immigrants use to learn English when they're here in the United States? Of course, many enroll in English classes at a community college. Sometimes those are even free. And we just talked about the idea of free. I remember taking one semester of an ESL class at a community college when I first arrived in this country. For me personally, it was disappointing. The classes seemed disorganized and overall just a waste of my time. Maybe some of you had a better experience. Regardless of whether you had a pleasant or unpleasant experience like I did, the bottom line is that all standard language courses are organized around the generalized needs of learners. What does it mean? It means that the material is geared towards a collective image of all possible learners, and only a small amount applies to each student. And obviously, there is tons of possible material to learn, but I can't learn it all at once, right? It needs to be prioritized. And they don't follow your priorities. They follow priorities of a collective image of all possible learners. And if you are an immigrant who has no time to waste, attending those classes can be very unproductive. And you might also say, it's okay, I'll just use this class for practicing my language skills. The problem here is that you don't actively practice those skills if you don't have enough vocabulary to use. As a result, you can quickly forget the material learned in the classes. So you don't get the results you were hoping for. The key point is that you need to adjust your vocabulary to your life and not your life to vocabulary. That brings us to the third foundation of language learning for work in a native speaking environment. And that's that the study needs to be result oriented. For example, one of the results that you might want is the ability to present your case to your manager about the advantages of your project. So your learning objective would be to learn vocabulary that you could incorporate into that type of conversation. And in my course that I'm offering, you will learn how to organize your vocabulary study so it fits the demands of your job. You will also train your pronunciation and word recognition. Fluency will become second nature. I'll mention once again that if you're interested in this course, register as soon as possible, and I can reserve a spot for you at the starting price of $28. And to conclude today's session, we talked about the foundations of language learning for work in the United States. And the foundations are quality input, meaningful interactions, and being result-oriented. And in the course that I'm offering, Fluent Vocabulary, you will find the essential tools to organize your study with these three aspects in mind. This is especially important for immigrants who have full-time jobs and need to speed up their English learning in order to settle in a job, whether temporary or the job of their dreams. Thank you for your attention, and that's all for today.